Hello everybody, Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the #1 kill team channel on YouTube, unless of course you are aware of any other channel on YouTube, in which case, just ignore what I said, thank you. If you even heard it, I say it quite quickly now so that you don't look into it, and don't look into it. Okay, so today we're talking about the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Battleclade. This is a very interesting team, and let's get into it. So this is going to be a video of two halves. The first half is going to be me talking about the vibes. I played them a bunch, I have some thoughts. I want to talk to you about them as a low-skilled player playing them, my view with them, how I think they're going to end up power-wise in the meta, how I think why they're probably not for me, but that doesn't mean they're bad, and I still enjoyed playing them, oddly. The second half of the video is going to be just the pure mechanics. I'm going to sit down, I took every single rule, I made it into a bullet point, but I'm also showing you the full rule, so if you want to sit there, freeze frame, read the full rule, and then hear me talk about it, you can do that. Of course, before we get into it, thank you to GW for sending me Typhon for review. They don't get to see anything I say before I say it, so these views are entirely my own, but just be aware that they do send me that. If you like what I'm doing here, I do have a Patreon, but also much more importantly for many people is I have affiliate links. If you are ever buying Warhammer, click on somebody's affiliate link. Every time I buy Warhammer, I click on someone's affiliate link. I have Whaling Games and Element Games in the UK. I don't have any others, just the UK. And if you click on that, it costs you nothing extra. You still get the same discounts you always would, but I get a little kickback. Additionally, I have a whole load of equipment. So if you are playing Kill Team, this is my daily driver. This is my loadout. Okay, this is my all-in-one travel box. I have special wound tokens, I have special objective markers, I have special like team tokens, everything. And this is my custom loadout. There is a gear equipment video, but also everything is pinned in the top comment in the description. So if any of that interests you, not only will you give me a little kickback when you purchase it using my links and my codes, you get a discount of 5 or 10% depending on the item. Cool. Okay, with that said, talk about the Battleclade. So let's be clear. I'm not a new player. That's the wrong word. I'm a beginner player. I'm not very good. Okay, this I feel is a big brain team because of their team ability noosphere network. It's not really my vibe, and let me tell you for why. First things first, this isn't my team. It's a 10-man team. I prefer elites. It is a hitting on fours team, and I hate hitting on fours. I can't lie. I just don't like when the dice go against me, and hitting on fours means that they go against me 50% of the time. And let me tell you this. When something's going against you 50% of the time, feels like 100% of the time. I'm just going to say it. This team is not my kind of team. Additionally, Noosphere Network. Let me very quickly tell you about what that's doing. Noosphere Network is basically, for an APL, you can make one of your operatives counteract. There you go. That's the very quick way of saying it. And they can counteract before their activation and after their activation, but it's still a counteract, so you can only counteract once in the turn. That means this team, which is not super powerful, without that, turns into a big brain team. You can't just play this team as all my guys are 2 APL, I'm going to move up and do a thing. Okay? If you do that, the team's probably not going to pop off as it needs to. You have to think ahead, you have to plan ahead, you also have to try and plan out multiple avenues of attack so that when you're thinking, okay, what I want to do is have with my 2 APL guy move up to there and tap a point, but I don't have the distance, so I have to move dash. That's my APL done. And then my Noosphere Network from my next activation will perform a counteract. But if you do that, and that's what you actually want to do, your opponent has time to react. That is where it becomes a bit of a tricksy team. It's not as simple as, oh, I have a 3rd APL when I make them counteract on the next activation. If you're then doing that, you're not doing something else with another model. So, the team ultimately is not my team. Now, having said that, I've only played them into Raveners, and I will also add that I have won with this team into Raveners more than I have won with Raveners into this team. That's a bit confusing, and we get at this real matchup or kind of meshing of, I like winning, you know, games feel better when you win, shockingly. And I've won with this team quite a bit now, but it's still not my team. Also, Raveners, of course, for a 5-model team, that's quite a big skew. So you could argue that's not really representative. Additionally, Raveners save on 5s in shooting. These guys are basically just a shooting team. So they were super effective into Raveners. Like every time a Ravener moved, I was like, oh great, I get a kill, lovely. And nothing the Raveners did really like got them consistent wins. So I was playing a very lopsided matchup that probably isn't normal. Their Flamers are really good. You know, they are the thing that would make me think, oh yeah, this team makes a lot of sense. The Techno-Archaeologist is really interesting. He gets a free anything apart from an attack, basically, as a strategic gambit. So he's super flexible. He's kind of the last model they want to move because you can go absolutely ham with this 3 APR model, do crazy things, and then do crazy things again in the strategic gambit phase. So he's almost, I'm sure there's a play here where this guy is absolute MVP every game. Cool, but he's not like super killy. That's the other thing. He's not bad, but he's still only 9 wounds, you know, like if he gets caught in the open, he's gonna die. Okay, right, with that said, let's have a quick think about the actual power level of this team. I think this team will be very, very popular among top players. I think if you're a if you're an Adeptus Mechanicus player, I think you've actually been given, although I think the models, the team concept is really boring. I think the mechanics you've been given are actually really good. Now, I don't like APL2 teams. I think the game is just less interesting when you're APL2, okay? But as APL2 teams go, I actually think this is one of the better teams out there, not just to play for fun, because that Noosphere network gives you like another layer of almost APL3, which is what I enjoy playing. But also I think from a power perspective, because Counteract is so strong in this game, you can get your guys into position, but the enemy has to deal with you immediately. You know in how Kill Team generally works, right? Somebody makes a move, maybe they get a kill, maybe they don't, but they've made their move. You get to then ignore that operative until you have to deal with it due to activations, right? So you're like, okay, they've made the move, they made their play. Right, I'm gonna focus on this side of the board until I decide what to do there. You can't do that against this team. In a crazy way, the ability to make this team counteract as soon as you want for an APL with the next operative you activate, or can almost be viewed as being an APL minus to the enemy team, because it forces your opponent to have to deal with every single model immediately. They cannot delay their activations, and that in itself is you controlling the enemy's activations. I think this team, I mean, who knows with the rule, with the power level of the team, they might get buffs, they might get nerfs. Either way, their actual power level could go up or down. I think right now it's probably slightly higher than it should be if you're thinking about that 50% perfect, but I think this team, from its core mechanics, the Noosphere network, they don't have an ability that directly controls the enemy, but because of their ability, the enemy is directly controlled by you, otherwise you get to do so much more than the enemy should let you, if that makes sense. And I think that is what is going to let this team win. And when you get a significantly more skilled player than me, let's be clear, when you get to that big brain level of play, I wouldn't be surprised if this team ends up being one of the better teams in the game. I don't know if I'd want to say S tier. I suspect maybe A tier. Although it wouldn't surprise me if your tier list is about like total potential capacity, they might be S tier, even if their win rate is D tier, because they're big brain. Although with that said, again, I was winning games with them, so they can't be that big brain. But it is what it is. Again, it was only into Raveners. Maybe that's a particular skew that this team just rocks at, and I don't know that yet. Yeah. Anyway, let's dive into the rules, the mechanics themselves, And okay, everybody, we have the Battleclade kill team rules. So you are a 10 model team, you must take your Techno-Archaeologist and you must take your Underseer. You then have options. You can take an Auto-Proxy Servitor, a Breacher Servitor, Infinite Combat Servitors. However, you have an Incendium Igniter, that's your Flamer, and you have a Phosphor Blaster, which is just like a bolt gun. But you also have a Melter Gun. You can only take one Melter Gun. Oh, sorry, you can only possibly take 3 Flamers, which makes sense. Cool. You then get a 2 gun servitors, one with a heavy arc rifle, one with a heavy bolter, and then you get a Technomedic servitor. When it comes to building this team, I built it very standard. So I'm taking one of everything. I'm not doing anything funky. I can imagine there is a game where you drop a gun servitor for another combat servitor with Flamer. I can definitely see the benefit of having 3 Flamers on this team, for sure. Or perhaps you don't want the Technomedic, for example. I think you do take everything else, though. The Breacher, as we're going to see, is very tasty, and the Auto-Proxy Servitor is helping you quite a bit. We then get Archetypes, Infiltration, and Recon. You're always going to take Recon in the current approved ops, because it's just so good. You would never take Infiltration with this team, because Recon's really strong. Right, we get to your faction rules. So, in case you haven't watched my other videos yet, what I've done here is you are allowed to just sit here, read the rules. You can hopefully zoom in enough to see that, and then I've put in a bullet point for what it actually means, just very quickly marked down. So there's a lot of text here for Noospheric Network. To very quickly sum it up, for an AP from another model, you can perform a counteract with one of your other models, but you cannot move in that counteract. The reason I call it a counteract is because if you do this, you then cannot counteract with that model again. But of course, you can make them counteract or Noospheric Network action before they've activated, but in reality, you're doing an early counteract. So there you go. This obviously leads to a lot of very interesting schemes that you get to try and think up. I think this is very strong, and I think it's going to throw a lot of people off how the game plays and how to play into this team, and I think it's going to make the team be significantly stronger than they are just on the datasheet. We then get Noospheric Network. Oh, sorry, this strategy deploys. So Noospheric Network, if you're within 6 inches of your Auto Servitor or your Underseer or your Auto Proxy, you get Accurate 1. This is servitors only, so you can't do this to your Underseer or to your Techno-Archaeologist, just to be clear. But yeah, Accurate 1. This interacts with the support comms device, to be clear. It will increase it to 9 inches, which basically is the whole board, so that's pretty good. And I think when we get to equipment, we will see that's definitely a thing you can take. There's definitely one piece of equipment that I don't really see the value in. Right. We then get Duty of Reclamation. If you are stood on an objective, you can reroll a dice. This is quite interesting. You just straight up get a command reroll. So it can be reroll for anything that command reroll counts. That means attack, defense, fighting, retaliating, etc., etc. Nice. We then get Incantation of the Iron Soul. You get a 5-up, feel no pain. Lovely. If something deals 3 or more damage on a 5-up, subtract 1 for that inflicted damage. In reality, this is an 8-wound team, to be clear. There you go. In reality, what this will probably mean, statistically, is that every other model is 9 wounds. That's the reality of a -1 damage on a 5-up. So, is that good, having 5 models be 9 wounds? Yeah, we'll see. We then get Prioritized Acquisition. Again, many bullet points. Basically, select one of the objectives on the board, or a mission marker, which could be relevant. If you are within control range of that objective, you get +1 APL to count towards your control score, and you get +1 attack to a maximum of 4. +1 APL for control is actually pretty solid. It means that you need 1 model to rival a Space Marine. That's really good. Yeah, that's really tasty. Gives you a lot of deniability, or denial techniques, I don't know. +1 attack to a maximum of 4 is pretty good. You are going to get charged in this game. Don't know if you're aware of that. Being able to roll 4 dice is just very good compared to 3. So that's nice. Then get to the Firefight Ploys. System Exorcism. Remove a negative effect. So this is the first time we've seen this concept within Kill Team, which is quite interesting. And just, yeah, if there was a negative effect on you, like a poison token or a -1 APL, you could just remove that. Unless the -1 APL is from transfer power, which of course you inflicted to yourself. This is interesting. I like it. Remote access. A tech priest, which means either your techno-archaeologist or your underseer, can perform a mission action within 4 inches, which is pretty tasty. The only addendum required for that is when it comes to tapping an objective. So presumably you're playing a mission where you need like loot, you want to loot the point. Obviously nobody's actually on the point and you do have to control the point to tap it. The way it gets around this is by saying if nobody's on the point at all, you can do it, that's fine. And then if you have any of your guys on it, then you can do it still. But they have to be within control range of that model. So that's quite interesting, because it means you can have your 2 APL servitor on an objective with, let's say, a Space Marine. They're in control range of each other. And even though your servitor is only 2 APL, if you and the Space Marine is 3 APL, you're not controlling the objective, but because it's within control range, you get to count as, well, you don't count as controlling, you were just able to remote access it, so you would be able to loot it in that instance. We then get autopheric supplication. Tech priests get to ignore piercing. I mean, look, if you're being shot with a piercing weapon, you're probably dead anyway. You're only 9 wounds. It is what it is. Cool. And we get servile surrogacy. No need to go into this. You get bodyguard. A servitor into a tech priest, that is. So a servitor can bodyguard a tech priest. We then get the data sheets. So your average, if we look at the bottom right there, is a Battleclade combat servitor. So this team ultimately is a 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save, 8 wound team. Let's go check out the Battleclade Techno-Archaeologist. So in complete opposite to what I just said, this guy is APL 3, move 6, 3-up save, 9 wounds. You have an eradication pistol, which is 4 attacks on 3, 4-2, range 8, 1-inch devastating 3, lethal 5 up. So if you want to think of it, if you're a newer player, you can think of that as being a 4-5 weapon. But if anyone's within 1 inch, they're going to take 3 morsels, which is very tasty. And that lethal 5 makes this actually a pretty solid pistol. His big thing is Seeker of Divine Arcana, Strategic Gambit. In the Strategic Gambit step, you get to perform a free action, but you can't attack. Really good. This is, and it's not a 1 AP action, it's a free action. You can fall back. If they've charged you trying to tie you up, not going to happen. The only thing to note is if it's a fullback or reposition and you're not carrying a marker, you have to end that fullback or reposition within your drop zone. So you do have to legit full run away. You have to run away. If that's not possible, then as close as possible to it. But again, if you're only just on the other side of the board, you don't have to move a full 6 inches to your side of the board. You just have to move, half an inch back so you're on your territory. We then get Omni Scanner, 1 AP action. If you have visibility to an enemy, everybody gets ceaseless into that model. This is quite nice. Omni Scanner can be done as a strategic gambit here for your Seeker of Divine Arcana. This is very good. I think that getting ceaseless up on as many models as possible is probably the Techno-Archaeologist's best way of playing. You want to strategic gambit Omni Scanner, and then as soon as you can, you want to just activate this model and get Omni Scanner up. I do think you're looking to Omni Scanner 2 models a turn with your Techno-Archaeologist. And if you're not doing that, you're probably nerfing your team quite hard. But then get the Battleclade Auto Proxy Servitor, and you have something called, note he doesn't have a weapon, a gun. He's only got a taser code. Right, Achillean Eye. If you get visibility, now this is an always on ability. You don't have to perform an action, so you always have this. If this model has visibility to an enemy that another of your models is shooting, you get Saturate. This is really good. This is very easy to get as well. The way I've played this model is I've set up a comms device somewhere kind of nearish the middle of the board, so that his 9-inch, it's normally 6 inches, but it will go to 9 inches. Aura for Noospheric Network is booming at 9 inches, and he just sits there and can see things. That's very tasty. He then gets Gaze of the Omnissiah, so this is a 1 AP action. Again, you need visibility on something, which is fine because you're figuring that out for Achillean Eye as well. And for 1 AP action, you get Seek Light, or every model that shoots into that model that you've just given the Gaze of the Omnissiah to gets Seek Light and can't be obscured. Very nice. Great buff, little buff there. What I quite like about this is that the way they've done it, Achillean Eye, again, you want to just move this guy next to a comms device and then not touch him for the rest of the game. That's his ideal way to play. And you might look at him and say, oh, he's a comms, isn't he? Oh, but he doesn't actually have a comms ability. So I think the way it's envisioned is you move him turn 1, and then from then on, you're only ever doing Gaze of the Omnissiah for 1 AP, which will give you a 2nd AP, and you're going to Noospheric Network another model. So he, in essence, is your comms because he's not meant to move. He does one thing. Battleclade Breacher Servitor. This is kind of your melee guy, but also your short range big hitter. So firstly, he's got Breach, which is 1 AP action. We've seen this on many other models. You perform an action, and then everybody within 1 inch of that marker, which is a 20mm marker, can move through that wall for 1 inch. But you have a las cutter, close range and short range profiles. So the close range is 4/5 damage, range 2, lethal 5, piercing 2. That's right, you have a baby melter. It's very tasty. I've used this to great effect. That lethal 5 with piercing 2 is really strong. You are range 2 with it though, obviously. But then the short range for him is a little bit more sensible. Range 6, lethal 5, but it's still a 4/5 damage weapon. Oh, and of course the big thing about him is he's hitting on 3s, which is very nice. We then get the hydraulic pincer and las cutter. 4 dice hitting on 4s, 4/6, lethal 5. Look, this is pretty tasty, but you're hitting on 4s. It's very untrustworthy. There you go. Then we get to the combat servitor, the most numerous of your models. So you can take, well, let's read the melter gun first, because that's obvious. 4 dice hitting on 4, 6/3, range 6, dev 4, piercing 2. Yes, that's right. This team can take 2 piercing 2 weapons. That's always tasty. I will say, this team has a lot of access to piercing. You see, we've got, well, we have more soon. And then we have the Incendine Igniter. This is your flamer, 4 dice hitting on 2s, 4/4, range 6, saturate target 1. We then have a Phosphor Blaster, 4 dice hitting on 4s, 3/4 severe. So it's a bolter that hits on 4s, but it has severe. Severe, in case you don't know, is if you don't roll a crit, one of your normals becomes a crit. I don't think that's very good. I think you're always taking the Incendine Igniter. The way I built the team, by the way, is 1 melter gun, 2 igniters. There you go. I think that's the way everybody's going to build this team. In fairness, some people might not want the melter gun. Into certain teams, maybe the melter gun isn't the pick, because that hitting on 4s is very unreliable. If you're into more of an elf team or a swarm team, you might want to always go igniter and not take the melter gun. There you go. We then get over to the Battleclade Gun Servitor. So again, you're taking 2 of these, or you can take 2 of these. They're a slight buff. They have 11 wounds instead of 8. The Heavy Arc Rifle is 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/6, heavy dash only, piercing 1, stun. And the Heavy Bolter is a standard heavy bolter, but it hits on 4s. But the focus is 5 dice hitting on 4s, 4/5, heavy dash only, piercing crits 1. So again, this is 2 more piercing 1 weapons, which is really good. Yeah. Now, I've honestly not had much luck with my gun servitors in my games, because again, yeah, you're 5 dice, but you're hitting on 4s. So if you're lucky, you're getting 3 hits, and then, I mean, a Space Marine just shrug that off. 2 good weapons. I totally understand why those are default picks, and you don't have to think too hard, really, about, ooh, should I take a 3rd flamer or not? Do I want to drop the Techno Medic or not? I think this team's going to work relatively well as a default 1-team loadout. However, we then get the Battleclade Techno Medic Servitor. Note that you don't get a gun again. 4 dice hitting on 4s, 3/4. You get rending, which is fine, but you're 4 dice hitting on 4s, so you know, yeah. You have medic, the standard issue medic ability, but it doesn't cost you. You don't lose an AP to do it, which is pretty good. I think both you and the person that you res don't lose an AP. which technically makes this the best medic in the game. There you go, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. We then get Expedient Repair, costs you 1 AP, heal for D3 plus 3, but you can't do it on the turn, but you can't do it to the model that you res that turn. Finally, we have the Battleclade Servitor Underseer. So it's a second APL3 model with a move 6, 3 up save, 9 wounds. Is your other guy 3 up save? Yes. Okay, so these two are the same data sheets or profiles, but you have a master crafted radiant pistol, which is 4 attacks on 3s, 2/4, range 8, balanced rending. This isn't like the best pistol, but I can attest that rending is very strong on ranged weapons. There you go. And you have data spike, which is 3 attacks on 5s, 2/3. This is your worst, hands down, your worst melee on the board. Do not melee with this guy. And then you get 2 abilities. Don't forget your APL3s. You could, in theory, do both of these. You get Noospheric Spur, which is, if they're within 6 inches of you or the auto proxy, you can make them from a free dash. If they're within a 6 inch of you, you can dash 1 servitor once per turn. There you go. Note that you are not a servitor, despite being called a Servitor Underseer. You can't Noospheric Network, obviously. Oh, right. And then you get Network Override. It costs you an AP to perform this action, and it lets you do the Noospheric Network point skill. There you go. However, the reason I've said Noospheric Network hack is because this is a skill that's going to cost you an AP to do, and if you go and read the Noospheric Network, you lose an AP when you do a Noospheric Network action. The reason this is a hack is that it says in here you don't have to lose an AP to do this, but that's because you've spent an AP to do the action first, so it's a whole weird thing. That's how they chose to write the rule. It is what it is, don't ask me. Cool, so you can do a Dasher Dude, Noospheric Network, and then you still got 1 APL for yourself. Right, we then get to your faction equipment. Covert Guises. I think this is identical to the, like, something, it might even be called the same thing from Brood Coven. But so you get D3 models can move forward 3 inches. This is your standard forward deploy that we have in the game at the moment. So it's a reposition, but it must end within 3 inches. We get electromantic capacitors. All of your melee weapons gain shock and severe if retaliating. So they all gain shock, and then if you are retaliating, they also get severe. Shock, in case you don't know, is not stun. Stun is when you lose APL. Shock is when, if you attack with a crit, if you strike with a crit, then you also parry one of their normals, unless they don't have normals, but they do have crits, in which case you parry a crit. So really it's you remove one of their normals. There you go. Very cool. And of course, severe means that if you don't roll any crits, you get a crit, which means you're kind of, if they're attacking, you're never meleeing other people, to be clear. Apart from possibly with your Breacher. But in reality, this means that you are guaranteed a crit when you're being hit. There you go. We then get Concealed Apparatus. I think this might be the one you don't take, is what I'm saying. Which will allow you to instead take a comms device. Anyway, basically, there's a lot of text here, and like 3 bullet points. If you haven't done any, if all you've done in turn 1 is move your models, move dash, then the models that have only moved and dashed turn 1 can swap positions. That's what this means. Finally, we have the Neurocyclic Reserve Cells. This is a mandatory pick. You can do the Noospheric Network D3 times for free. Now, what really sucks here is that sometimes you're going to roll a 1, and for how strong and mandatory this piece, like this gives you D3 APL3 models throughout the game. Okay? Oh, so it's per game. You roll a D3, and then for that game, you have D3 times you can basically gain an AP, and you get to choose when to do it. So this is really, really, really strong. It's entirely possible that this team, on the times that you roll 3 for your reserve cells, this team becomes OP, and the times you roll 1, this team loses. I can see that being the case. That's how good this is. There you go. Or, perhaps into their toughest matchups, if you don't roll a 3, you're going to lose, because that's how good it is. Anyway, let's quickly take it back to the studio to wrap things up. coming back to you here at the end, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that interesting. If you chose to check out the rules, the mechanics themselves first before dropping back to the final thoughts, jump back to that now. Thank you. If not, thanks so much for watching. Please check out all of my other videos on this channel, especially the one that I spent far too long editing, which was on my other channel, Tactical Skew. I did a Ravener versus Battleclade narrative battle report. Check that out, that'd be awesome, thank you. And additionally, check out my affiliate links and all of my equipment, gear links, and you get money off for all of that. So that'd be awesome. All right, thank you everybody, have a good one. See you in the next video.